Right, this tutorial we're going to look at fractions. This is definitely more of a revision tutorial, so if you do need to go over a lot of your basic operations of fractions, I would suggest going into the practice questions tab and just going through each operation one at a time. So doing adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Here I'm going to be looking at past paper questions. I'm going to do one of each operation. So to start with, we've got Anne mixed 1 2/3 kilograms of flour with 1 1/4 kilograms of sugar. What's the total of flour and sugar? So we're adding the two together, the two fractions together. So we have 1 2/3 plus 1 1/4. So when you're adding fractions together, you can't add thirds to quarters. You have to make sure you have a common denominator so that we can actually add them together. Here we've also got mixed fractions, mixed numbers. We've got 1 2/3 plus 1 1/4. Now you can add the whole numbers together and the fractions together. Just so that we're using the same method through this whole time, I'm actually going to change them into improper fractions. If you're comfortable keeping them as mixed numbers, that's absolutely fine. So let's just first of all make these both improper fractions. So you multiply 1 times 3 is 3, plus the 2 is 5. So we've got 5/3 plus 1 times 4 is 4, plus the 1. 5/4, 5/4. So as I've said, right now they're in two different forms. We've got this one is thirds and this one is quarters. So I'm going to just change these into the same denominator. We're looking for the lowest common multiple of 4 and 3. So that's going to be 12. So to change the 3 to 12, I'm going to have to multiply it by 4. Whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So we're going to multiply that by 3. To change the 4 into 12, I'm going to have to multiply by 3 there. And I'm going to have to multiply that by 3 as well. So in our next line, we've got 20/12 plus 5 times 3 is 15/12. Once you've got it in the 12ths, so you've got 20/12 plus 15/12, which leaves us with 35/12. Your denominator stays the same. You're just adding the numerators together. Last little step, you just want to change that back into a mixed number. So how many times does 12 go into 35? Well, it only goes 2 times. 2 times 12 is 24. So your remainder, you've still got 11 left, so that stays in the fraction. 2 and 11/12. I'm putting it back into the context, it was kilograms. So that's one example of adding fractions. Like I say, you could have just done 1 plus 1 to get the whole number, added the fractions together by getting the common denominator, you would have got back to this as well. Okay, I'm going to look at a past paper, National 5 past paper question. I'm going to do a subtraction one now. So this is from the 2013 paper. Evaluate 3 2/5 minus 1 3/4. I'm just going to write that out on my piece of paper. 3 2/5 minus 1 3/4. So adding or subtracting, you need the same thing. You need it to have a common denominator. Again, just to follow the same process, we're going to change these into improper fractions. 3 times 5 is 15, plus the 2 is 17. So we've got 17/5 for this one, minus 1 times 4 is 4, plus the 3 is 7. So we've got improper fractions here, but what we actually need is just a common denominator here. We can't take quarters away from fifths, they need to be the same thing. So we're going to multiply the 5, we're going to get our lowest common multiple, which is 20. So that means we're going to multiply the 5 by 4 to get it to 20. We're also going to do that with the 17. The 4, we have to multiply by 5 and multiply by 5. Right, so our new line, 4 times 17. If you need to do it at the side, that's absolutely fine. 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 1, add the 2, 68. So here we've got 68/5 minus 35. Oh, sorry. Done exactly the thing I shouldn't have. 68, hopefully you noticed that, over 20 minus 35/20. So now we just have to subtract. We know that it's going to be 20ths. We just need to do the 68 minus the 35, which is going to be 33. And final step, changing it back into that mixed number. 20 goes into 33 one time, remainder 13, so your 13 stays in the fraction. So you've got 1 13/20. So that's adding and subtracting. If you want to practice them, I would go into the practice questions now. I'm now going to look at a division question and a multiplication question. looking at past paper questions again. This one here from the 2014 paper, evaluate 5/12 times 2 and 2 9s, given your answer in the simplest form. So just writing that onto my paper. We've got 5/12 multiplied by 2 and 2 9s. So to multiply fractions together, you don't need a common denominator, but you do need them to be both in the fraction form. They can't have this mixed number here, so it needs to be an improper fraction. We've been doing that anyway, so we're just going to, 5/12 is fine, we're going to change this 2 and 2 9s into an improper fraction. So 2 times 9 is 18, plus the 2 is 20, 20 over 9. Now, if you can simplify across the way, it's going to make it easier for you to multiply these together. So 5 and 9, if they can simplify, now you can only do this when there's a times sign here. So 5 and 9, we can't simplify them. 20 and 12, we can simplify them. We can divide them both by 2, or even 4. We can divide them both by 4, so you're looking for the highest one. So dividing the 20 by 4, that becomes 5. Dividing the 12 by 4, that becomes 3. So just so you can see exactly what I'm doing there. Now we're just saying 5/3, so we've changed that, times 5/9. It's just a little bit simpler. When you're multiplying fractions, you multiply the numerator with the numerator and the denominator with the denominator. So 5 times 5 on the numerator is 25. 3 times 9 on the denominator, we've got 27. So you've got 25 over 27. And if you've done all the simplification that you can here to make the multiplication easier, that means that you're going to have your answer there in your simplest form. 25 over 27. And that's your answer. Right, you have to be able to do multiplication. You have to know how to do this to be able to do division. So if you want to practice any of them, again, go into the practice questions. And the last one I'm going to look at is from the 2013 specimen paper. 2 and 3/8 divided by 5/16. So we've got 2 and 3/8 divided by 5/16. So again with division, we need it to be an improper fraction. 2 times 8 is 16, plus the 3, 19 over 8, divided by 5 over 16. Right, when you're dividing with a fraction, we're just going to change that to times and invert this one here, 16 over 5. So dividing by fraction, you change it to times and then you flip this one round here. Now we've got that times, we can look and see if we can simplify across the way to make our multiplication easier. So 19 and 5, can we simplify that? No, we can. 8 and 16, yes we can. We can divide both of them by 8. You could also divide them by 2 and 4, but you're looking for the largest one. So 8 divided by 8 is 1, 16 divided by 8 is 2. So you can go straight into now 19 times 2 over 1 times 5. I'm just going to write that out nice and clearly. 19 over 1 times 2 over 5. So last step, 19 times 2 on the new numerator is 38 over 1 times 5, which is 5. Now you do want to change this back into a mixed number. We were given it like this in the beginning, so we want to change this back into a mixed number rather than leaving it as an improper fraction. So you're saying 5 goes into 38 how many times? 7, remainder 3, so the 3 stays in the fraction, 3/5. And that's some past paper practice of fractions, and you can have a look at your own past paper questions now.